Let's get started. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Stop dish. All right. Let me get my meditation. Welcome to your reading. So, what do we have here? Antares Rising. Wow. One of the royal stars. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but Antares is one of the four royal stars of Persia. And it can be a little bit militant, but the it can be connected to fame. People who have, I mean, it's not the thing is it's not right on Antares, but you'll have a lot of the characteristics of Antares. So it's very, very good to have your ascendant there, because then your descendant is with Aldebaran, because they're opposite in the sky. And these are two of the four royal stars. The other two are Regulus and Fomalhaut. And you have to basically have planets or angles. Angles are actually more important. Ascendant, midheaven, descendant, within like a degree. So that is excellent. Antares, it's definitely like it can be a little bit headstrong, and it can definitely make someone very yeah, like very militant's the best word, but like great leaders. And they say Regulus is the king, like the one at 29. I'm actually Regulus rising, so it's like, Regulus is the kind of king of the known world. Think of like a president or whatever. Antares, like people like Pablo Escobar is a great example. He has his midheaven son, or had, on Antares. Of course, it's not just criminals. Um, and yeah, it's almost like it's very like Martian, Mars, Jupiter. So it's very, very, very competitive, very good. It's associated with Archangel Michael. So there can be conflict, and with the royal stars, it's always important to know that there's great success, great riches and honor. Antares, it's not always like the easiest start in life, but um, you know, they kind of they get the job done with hard work, and they're very smart, very, very, they get really to the bottom of things, very strategic, also very courageous, like daredevil kind of vibes, and very alert, you know. So sometimes people can fear them, 'cause they don't miss anything. So yeah, they're not people that you want as your enemy. Let's just call it that. Um, so yeah, and they love horses. Random thing. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of Antares, and we'll get into the other stars later. So okay, so you got the sun in Gemini in the seventh, and then the moon in Virgo. So you are a double Mercury person. Um, so obviously, I'm not going to go into the sun sign Gemini, like we know what Gemini is. Um, but when you have both, and wait, was this? Hold on. Yeah, so this is the one about, hold on, let me actually, let me see one thing really quick. Let's see here. It is okay, yeah, that's the one I was thinking about. This is this is the one. Okay, yeah, that name. Pulling up the email. Yeah, so that's that pattern. Yeah, the pattern of the overextending, overworking, burning out, and shutting down. Therapist had a pattern that I can't seem to shake, and I would really appreciate. Okay, so a pattern of overextending yourself, overworking, and then burnout. All right, well, we can start with that. So first of all, having a first house Neptune, the the boundaries can be a bit blurred. Um, people, you have to recognize your own power, that your own Antares power, right? But with the first house Neptune, there can be sort of a lack of boundaries, like I said, and if there's any vagueness in your identity and who you think you are, people can kind of take advantage. And sometimes people with this can create like a fantasy world of their own. So they really, really need to like clarify who they are, what they stand for, and so forth, and their purpose. And when that's done, then so also your North Node's in Leo, your South Node's in Aquarius. So that's another indicator of that, right? People with South Node Aquarius, a lot of times they are, people in past lives who in past life tendency of, being used to being the person that helps a lot of people, right? Like very, very giving. But in this life with your North Node in Leo, your ninth house, you're meant to become a leader. You're meant to like really, like I say this and people sometimes hear incorrectly. It's like it's a little bit okay. It's more okay for you to be selfish. I'm gonna go back to my meditative vibe right here. So yeah, with this placement, right? North Node and Leo, like it can be hard for North Node and Leo people to accept, that they are leaders, that they're meant to like third house South Node, there can be a tendency to be a little bit like not allowing yourself to experience the kind of like to experience like it kind of staying like close to home, close to certain ideas, not venturing out enough when it comes to ideas and to increasing your worldview and your truth. Because at the end of the day, your truth is what defines your dharma and what you think is important to do. So, um, and then Uranus squares it. Let me just make sure that's correct. So you have the trine of the nodes with Neptune. That's like past life gifts. Like, you could have some real like inherited talents um around, psychic intuitive abilities and deep compassion, right? Which goes with the theme I was saying. But the square with Uranus is unresolved material um from conditioning, right? From past life conditioning. um and there's a big need for you to liberate yourself from the past. So any of these patterns you're talking about, these could be, very much a link to that. um like lots of conditioning in past lives towards what the truth is in this lifetime. You are meant to find that truth, right? So that means traveling and, meeting people, from different worldviews, different philosophies, and, you know, just like really being open to endless potentials, right? And having your worldview shift. So there's, and also Uranus is a trauma signature where maybe you were ostracized in the past life for being different, and there can be yeah, just like unresolved trauma which holds you back from taking that step towards individuation, right? So, the house and sign obviously is, with Leo and Aquarius. So yeah, it could be just like it's about knowledge and wisdom. But really, yeah, it's about individuation and like I said, the need to detach from prior conditioning. And it's just like about becoming really aware in this lifetime of how different conditioning from society, family, whatever it is, has, can maybe imprison you. Um, and then that kind of blocks you from your own individuality, from finding that, from claiming that. So also this can be looked at as like a potential PTSD, past life inherited PTSD, like past life trauma. And there can be a fear of being different and taking the road less traveled because of past life memories of being kicked out. So there's a real need to kind of embrace the transformational, the potential for transformation and for taking that road less traveled. So any kind of depth therapy where you really get down to your unconscious, traumas and ways that you might, hold yourself back. And then also to your gifts, accessing your gifts is really, really key. So the Uranus opposition, you're born in 80. So actually, that means that you're going through it right now, because this makes your Uranus opposition really, really important, which is around like 41-ish, 42. So, I guess, you're in it or you just passed it. So, yeah, that's very, very important. So, let's see here. And then you have Uranus in the 12th too, which is a very, very, very intuitive placement. It enables you to, if you meditate and if you deepen yourself spiritually, to have downloads from your spirit guides, from your ancestors, from different, wherever it comes from. I'm not gonna like say where or what, but it really gives you the ability to have like advanced esoteric and spiritual knowledge and insights. But of course, it's like a muscle that you have to work out, right? But it's generally a very good placement for Uranus. It likes to be in houses like 12th and 8th because it's a liberating force, so it can liberate you spiritually. You have the real ability to do that. And have your own like very unique spiritual type of practice that comes from you, not from conditioning of like, and it extends to like even like how people say one should be spiritual, right? Like there's so many different spiritual paths, right? And if there's one guy, like one spiritual influencer who's saying, this is how you do it, like that might not work for you. Maybe that works. Maybe there's some generalities that work for different people, but everyone has their own, path. And that's why I think a lot of like spiritual teachers, a lot of their work doesn't resonate with us because everyone's different. Everyone has different things that work for them and different things that don't work for them. So with that said, another indicator of that tendency is being a moon, having your moon in Virgo conjunct Saturn. So, what can happen there is that, and you have your moon square sun. So oftentimes what happens there is that it's not always that the parents, divorced or anything like that. A lot of times it is, but it's not like a sign, there's not like a correlation that I found, like a sure correlation. But what tends to happen is that the male, the masculine part of you, the Gemini, masculine archetype within you, and then the feminine archetype, the Virgo moon, they are very much at odds, and it creates a kind of a situation. I'll get into like the Saturn and how it all reflects what you're saying. But in essence, it's about how can you feed both mouths, right? The Gemini is all about new experiences. It's all about curiosity. It's all about, fun. And it's all about kind of going through the world and acquiring all these different information that then leads you to your North Node, which, North Node is kind of your destiny point, right? Of like, you know, um, where you are meant to go, like the metaphoric mountain never climbed and path left, right? Like I said, it's in the ninth house of truth. So you're really trying to find new truth. And then that truth is what you're going to, what you build your whole life on. And it doesn't always come, like there's, it's a lot of trial and error. So I always tell people, who have Saturn in their chart, right? So you have Saturn on your moon, which I'll get into in a sec. That's someone who, Virgo moons can be very, very hard on themselves. They can have issues with um not feeling their emotions, like being overly logical when it comes to their emotions. So, and it's linked with different anxiety disorders, overthinking, and sometimes like self-esteem issues, especially with the square to Neptune, right? So this is really, really interesting because it's conjunct Saturn square Neptune, right? And then square Mercury. So one by one, right? So I'll start with the finishing the sun and moon, and then I'll go to the moon's aspects. But in essence, like sun square moon, like I said, it's like that's how the Gemini is very free flowing. The Virgo is more controlled, and it's more about order. It's more about consistency. So there can be like a potential where there's one party that wants to go, and there's the other part that wants the organization, that structure, and control. So, what can be difficult with that is that your Virgo moon is conjunct Saturn. So most likely the first 30 years for you, most likely you experience your mother, maybe she was a little, a little bit perfectionist. Also, you have your Virgo Mars. So these are aspects that are very, 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 it can make someone very self-critical. And one of your life purposes is to break free of that, right? And and that comes from having a balanced view of what, because a lot of times people who have this much Virgo energy, they can really think like other people are way better than them, for example, right? They can like see themselves as like low and other people as like, very high, when it's really not the case. What just happened? Hold on. Did that not download my thing? Okay, it's not done. Let's say stop. So, yeah, so that's kind of the deal, right? Is like Virgo moons, there's that tendency towards perfectionism. And if the mother or the early nurturing, there was like sort of you have to be perfect, and you have Jupiter in Virgo too, which is ultra perfectionism. So you have a lot of this kind of perfectionism, which is the 100 or 0, right? So it goes exactly with what you're saying. Even if I didn't read your email, I would have talked about this exactly how I'm talking about it. Like the last reading I just did, I forgot to read the email till the very end, and I literally answered every single thing in the email. So Jupiter is the planet that makes everything bigger. So whatever sign it's in, you expand in that sign. So, Virgo, it's purity, right? It is literally like, think of a white, perfect ball. But the thing is, there's like perfection is an illusion. It's impossible. But people with a lot of Virgo, like yourself, 4 planets in there, they they can go for this like impossible to get to ideals, right? Like I have to be 100%. And then let's say one day their best is 80, then they just allow themselves to fall to 0. It's that black or white. So I always tell the Virgo people, you have to have a sense of humor around your shortcomings, and you have to really prioritize the balance between your, the balance in your life, right? Um, and once Virgos can start to kind of see like, all right, like I'm great, like, um, but I'm not gonna break my back, right? For some, I'm not like there's lots of fears, and it comes. The step one is that you can do therapy, right? But lots of Virgo moons struggle with therapy because their emotions are ruled by Mercury, which is the brain's cognitive. So there can be like lots of talking, and it can be hard for them to go inside of their emotions and feel the emotions. That's where the real healing happens, right? When you're able to get the releases and really feel it. So that um you know intellectualizing emotions is very 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 common, which is why, and overthinking, right? Overthinking, ruminating thoughts, and sometimes tying their self-worth to what they can do as opposed to who they are. And like I said, I would have said all this regardless. So then Mars and Virgo, I'll get to that in a sec. Let me go back to what I was saying. So you see already how like with the sun square moon, it's almost like the message you got from mom, message you got from dad, there's a lot of difference between the two, right? Um, and I have this too, by the way, just different signs, Pisces and Sag. So people with this, they have this great chip on their shoulder, like to succeed. It's almost like to prove people wrong a lot of times, right? Um, but it can go too far. So it definitely leads to success. But as you see in your case, what's more effective? So like I tell Virgo people, this is how you need to live your life. Because another thing about Virgo moon is that there's so much of a link between the somatic, the body, and the emotions. And when they overwork, they get sick or burn out in your case, like you just said, right? So I say this. I say, look, Virgos think they're here and other people are here sometimes, when really they're here and other people are here. It's just hard for them to see that. Um, they're very reliable, and they don't always see that in themselves, and people take advantage of them sometimes, right? So I say this, I say, have a sense of humor about your failures, your shortcomings. Look at each day on a scale of 0 to 100. Um, do your best, right? But some days the best, some days it's better. Like I was reading something the other day where it was saying like how if you're someone who is always on the move and you can't feel like the idea of sitting, you're walking by someone in a park and you see someone reading a book, and that idea of them reading that book freaks you out, or you're just like, what the fuck is that? How the fuck can they do that? Like, and then that's a key that there's a certain flow to life. Like today, for example, I woke up, I didn't even know I was going to work tonight. I mean, I had an idea, but I didn't know. I was, I woke up pretty shitty. I was pretty lazy all day, not lazy because I work, I work at night, and I just kind of like allowed my energy to gradually, build up. And I didn't really do much or anything work related. And then I ate a nice meal, and night came around and I did one, and then I did a second, and I wasn't this one. It's late because I'm not trying to stay up this late anymore. But I was like, I'm feeling it. I want to get three, minimum three done each night. Two is not enough for me, because I don't like to work every night, even though I do most nights. But when I do readings, I want to do at least three, right? So I said, screw it, I'm gonna do it, whatever. I have energy. It's just the time. So the point there is that if I stopped at two, I wouldn't have like been hard on myself, right? I would have just been like, all right, that's fine, right? Um, but like you see like this gradual flow. But then yesterday, I guess yesterday I had like one live teaching session, but the day before that I didn't do anything. I've had days in the last month where you really have to feel into your intuition of like when you need to slow down. I know that if you work for a company, for example, or you have a boss, it's not really like that simple. But I talk to Virgo people who get really taken advantage of, like they're hardworking, and once they start to create boundaries and options, like if you do this, I'm gonna switch companies, or I don't know, just I know that might not be a possibility, but like you create leverage in certain ways, and then you see how valued you are. The whole world out there. But yeah, so like judging each day, scale of 0 to 100. Okay, but what's today? The best I could do is 30. Maybe today the best I could do is 0 or 5. Maybe, and then one day it's like 90. One day it's 100. Maybe you get on a streak, and then maybe so it's feeling into your body. But this is the thing with the moon. So first of all, um, it's feeding those both mouths, the one of experience, the one that wants that new stuff, newness, curiosity. But then the moon, it wants structure, wants order. But also moon square Mercury, right? That creates sort of indecisiveness, where you're always trying to weigh the pros and cons. The feelings, the moon, and the thoughts are at odds. So it's really about learning how to compromise between um, you know, those two, right? And that comes from what I always refer to as the inner constitution of you, your inner personal constitution. It's like a rule book that you create, and you live your life based off of those rules, right? Um, but so with moon on with Saturn, that would make it so your first 30 years or so would have been quite difficult emotionally. Um, there could have been some depression. There could have been some melancholy, right? Um, it makes someone very shy, typically, right? And with the Virgo moon, it can make someone, shy and overthinking. And it can make, it can have, issues with self-confidence and self-esteem. And a lot of times, like I said, it comes from a lack of feeling that warmth from parent figures. Usually it's the mother, when very young. So it's like this big, massive need to work on self-esteem, and um, really, really know, what you deserve, and once that kind of usually around this, the Saturn turn or so, um, but like it does make someone a super hardworking and super responsible. Um, but it's about knowing your own worth, and you know, being able to find that voice, right? Now, we throw in the Jupiter and the Mars together, which by the way is a great, great conjunction. Um, it makes someone very generous and quite lucky too, especially 10th house, you know, career, be 9th house in Placidus. So it could also be linked to wisdom, knowledge, um, meeting the right teachers at the right time, stuff like that. But it makes someone courageous, hardworking, able to take risks. It's kind of like a gusto in life. Um, and people that usually travel, and they usually like very, very good for sports too. So it's very, very good for competition, and it makes someone just a real go-getter. But the thing in Virgo is that the standard that's being held is very high. So independently, Virgo Mars can be one of the most difficult, like honestly, in my opinion, one of the most difficult aspects or placements, because Mars is your action, your assertiveness, and Virgo is perfection and purity. And um, it what happens if the moon's already there? Um, the individual, so Virgo is a super self-aware energy. It's very it observes and sees everything, right? And it can be very, very critical of self, which then projects to others. So until Virgo energy starts to loosen up and to understand that it cannot be perfect, it can be very difficult, right? Mars and Virgo, they want to have their own way. They're very hardworking, and but sometimes they can be buzzkills. I've seen this more in men, but also this is all in the 10th house, right? So this is like very, very ambitious energy where someone would want to like really, really seek power in their career and kind of battle for the top. It's very competitive. But usually, Mars in the 10th would prefer to have more autonomy in their career, independence, right? And, 10th house Saturn can create a fear of public failures, right? So that could also speak to that too, where there could be like a fear of messing up. But overall, it's a really, really good placement, right? Makes someone really, really hardworking. But if there's that fear there of what happens if I mess up, then yeah. And then 10th house moon gives someone an emotional like satisfaction and connection to their job, right? And they can become very, very obsessed and work way too hard, as you said, right? To get ahead because of that need for public recognition and achievement. And sometimes there can be like a link if like the parents were, never happy and it was only through like what they did as opposed to who they were, then, it can kind of be in their career as well, right? But it is very good for success. It's just like the only person that could beat you is yourself. Um, so yeah. Also it's really, really good for public image. And then Jupiter also 10th house is great for public image, right? It actually creates a lot of, typically a lot of luck around that. But also can create this kind of like ever needing, um, ever or not ever always like always like just continuously expanding need for public recognition. But it can also create lots of luck with network and stuff like that. But Jupiter and Virgo, so Virgo is also about being of service and it's about having a balanced routine, right? So like mental health, physical health, work, work, work life, home life balance, right? Um, but you know, and all the other O's, spiritual, mental, emotional, all that physical. So, but yeah, like the Jupiter Virgo, like with the Mars, it creates that obsession for detailed perfection and being very hard on the self when it doesn't get to this like crazy ideal, right? So it's like really, really about having that awareness can be so massive, right? So, um, yeah, I think that there's a lot of energy in your chart that's about career. But also, the fact that your North Node is in Leo in the ninth, like I said, you're here to learn. So, um, and in Placidus, it would be in the eighth. So, I like to kind of give a little bit of both sometimes. Um, there, so that there it's about like, going deep within the self and like really evolving and transforming and letting go of what no longer needs you, which is, you can relate that to, on the emotional kind of or even physical level here with all the stuff I just talked about the Virgo. Um, Now here's something that's very big for what you said. Black Moon Lilith in a chart represents our self-defeating, like where we defeat ourselves, right? And you have it in Libra, on your midheaven in Libra, and that can be about people pleasing and lacking boundaries. And it's on your midheaven, so it can mean that can come out in the area of career, in groups you're part of, organizations, whatever, where it's hard to say no to like this project or that project, not wanting to upset people, not wanting to rock the boat. So one of the big lessons there is to learn to, accept not making everyone happy, right? Um, so yeah. So yeah, that's how I see that one. It's like always wanting that balance and then like putting yourself down and like just to make someone else happy, right? So that is the way to transform that is to look at the opposite sign, Aries, which is all about independence and just being badass and just like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do me no matter what, you know? So, another key part of your chart, is this moon square Neptune. Now, this is super important because the moon represents the mother typically, right? Early nurturing, the emotions. And when it's square Neptune, your environment is really important. It's really, really important. I'm gonna go back to it's really, really important for you to know, like to be in the right place as it comes to when it comes to like to be in the right place when it comes to where you work, who you surround yourself with, because you can really, you know, take on a lot from other people. And so another crazy thing about the moon square Neptune that I tell a lot of clients, a lot of times it blows their mind, is that the way you were nurtured early on by your mother, or just like, I don't like to just say just mother, but just like usually like a lot of people with that, they can take on a lot of shame, guilt, or negative emotions that belong to the mother. When they're really young, they were really, and still this age, you're this sponge of energy. So if you're in like a really negative environment, you can take and you feel the suffering of the world around you really intensely. So when you're like really, really young, if your mother was going through depression or anxiety or anything like that, it would have really, really, really affected you. And I tell people this, when they're later in life, and I'm like, okay, sit down and write down on paper, like feel into it, meditate on it, like what might you have that isn't yours. And I've had some people be like, wow, like you were right, like I never even realized that, like this anger and this emotion or whatever it is, the shame that my mom had, like passed it on to me, like it's not mine, it doesn't belong to me. So being able to like do a ceremony where you release yourself from that is very, very, very it can be life changing. So then also, like, a really important part of your chart is the fact that your sun is right on the descendant. So that makes partnerships, very, very important. Seventh house suns, they're really meant, seventh house is about love, but it's also about business partnerships. It's about client, like this is like, if you're working for, like with clients, that kind of energy, that kind of relationship. So, yeah. Um, seventh house suns, like you know, they they're really meant to learn a lot through these partnerships and through these relationships, ultimately. And it's not it's I've it's not it basically seventh house sun, like most of them get either are married or got married, or just like had relationships that they but the goal is to find the balance between compromise and like like one extreme being codependent, I can't live without love, and the other extreme being too independent where I'm not like willing to give any of myself. And with your loaded 10th house, it would make you very career oriented, but it's also very, very much about you in this lifetime. There's a big need to explore the world, right? A big need to explore different philosophies. So I think that a great type of career, great type of work, would be something where there's this Venusian kind of like harmoniousness to everything, right? That is very, very important. Because honestly, let me hold on. I need to check the sound one more time. Okay, check, check, check. Okay. All right. So, hmm. Okay. So yeah, that's a big thing is like the 10th versus 7th. So it's the balance between relationships and career. And if there's two, and then also, the ninth house, right? So truth, a big part for you in this lifetime is finding the Dharma through the truth, right? Like, if you're someone, I say this a lot, but it's like, people determine like what they're meant to do and what's important for them to do based off of what they believe to be true. If you believe that, everything that mainstream science says is true, and all of like astrology is bullshit, and, like mental health is bullshit, or whatever, like you're going to be very different than someone like myself, for example, right? I'm not saying I deny science. I'm like against science. I'm just saying like as an example. So you going out in the world physically or metaphorically and finding this truth is massive because then you're able to align yourself with, career. And like I said, it's really, really important for you to be able to say no. Because with your South Node in Aquarius, you're, it's very, very important for you to get out of your comfort zone and to not just acquiesce and um to have a creative purpose in your life, right? And also to be in line with your inner child. That's what Leo is, the inner child. So, in terms of the pain, Chiron in Taurus, right? That can be related to self-esteem, right? Um, so when you're someone who takes on so much energy emotionally that isn't yours, you can easily like imagine you're a sponge energetically, right? And then being that the moon's in Virgo, it can be difficult to express what what you're taking in. So it can just get really stuck. There's a lot of releasing that needs to happen, a lot of reprogramming that would need to happen, right? And the high energy of Moon in Neptune is magic. It's an enlightenment. It's a spiritual journey inside the self. The more that you increase your spiritual awareness and the more of a spiritual journey that you go on within yourself, the better. So as it relates to Chiron in Taurus, there's that relates to self-esteem issues a lot of the time, right? And sixth house Chiron could be someone who's meant to heal, or to be a healer, like as their job, and they can also experience pain in their everyday life through their job, right? So I don't know if that's your reality based on what you said, but I would correlate your email to this past life tendency, and potentially, maybe let's say you have a boss, maybe there's like a real parallel between, you know, trying to please that person, or if it's not even that, just, it's like related to something with the parents, because lots of times, like I said, Moon conjunct Saturn was, a lot of times it was a very controlled type of kind of cold, like emotionally cold upbringing, where like you had to kind of, you know prove yourself based on what you could do, not who you were, as I said. And then all the other energies make it even extra hard. So, you know having passions, creative passions, traveling would be like one of the best things for you, seeing different cultures. and finding different creative outlets, right? Even if they're things you show no one. Like Neptune squaring your moon, one of the best things you can do for yourself is film yourself or talk in the mirror and do like a, or like on your phone, do like a daily vlog where you kind of just talk about, like your emotions. You don't have to show anyone because Neptune is camera. And I've tried done it to people and I've had like amazing results. But also you have Chiron trine moon. So that's one that's like someone who naturally, emotionally, intuitively knows what to say to ease someone's to heal someone, knows how to heal them through like this, their intuition and their yeah. So like they're on like an emotional level, you are a healer. You're someone who has gifts in that realm. Also, speaking on that, you have Sun square Mars and square Jupiter. So Sun square Jupiter is the Superman, Superwoman. I had this, right? And it's someone who can, like I give the metaphor of like, walking into the casino and thinking that you're automatically gonna win. And putting too much on your plate, right? Promising too much. So, and then Sun square Mars, it can create like this real competitive edge, but also some sort of anger, um, and frustration that can come out, that can boil up. Um, so yeah, just having a physical outlet would be very, very, very key. So, yeah, even another one, Mercury in Gemini is a very strong placement for intelligence, right? And trying Pluto, it gives someone the ability to really, once they get into something, there's like this obsessive energy. Like let's say you want to study astrology, or you want to study this or that, you'd have the ability to really like dial in and um you know just really, really like it gives massive determination. And so here's really what's important is Pluto in the 11th speaks to someone who needs to, when they're choosing their friends and their groups, they need to choose friends, groups, organizations, whatever. They can gauge how good these groups are, these friends, whatever, all that stuff are for them based on the level to which they push forward or continue any kind of like negative conditioning and indoctrination. That's the bad. Or if they're able to move you into a more liberated, unconditioned state, and kind of make help you kind of see life from a different perspective. That is when it's a good group for you. And there could be some issues, some run-ins, right? Some intensity that comes in the career and in different organizations, right? So 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 yeah, the Venus, the Venus in Cancer. So if we talk about love, right? So Gemini ruling your seventh is definitely, it speaks to like the need to have fun relationships where there's great communication and all that. That's very, very important. um Communication, relationships, and being able to speak your truth and have someone that's just it sounds obvious, but just that keeps you on your toes. It's not boring, right? That's very, very important. And Mercury in the seventh house would make you, and invested there, it would make you very, very, Gemini seventh house energy can definitely get bored um of partners. So if there isn't that real intellectual connection and that fun and that childishness, things can get really bland. But with that said, there's just like, Vesta there gives like a real hard work ethic. Like there's lots of like determination to make things work in relationships. And sometimes I have clients where they have seventh house sons and they're single. But like in a Placidus chart, the sun would be in the sixth, so the perspective there would shift a little bit. It's still, close to the ascendant, but then it's like, a lot about service, right? And a lot about being of service in your life and having a very consistent life. Um, yeah. Um, and that's linked to Virgo, right? And then that also would, help out a lot of the the potential self-esteem. And sometimes Chiron in Taurus people, you know, don't love their own body. And there's lots of squares to the ascendant, to Mars, Sun opposite, Mercury opposite, Moon square. So, that can create someone who could really benefit from doing things that make them feel beautiful, that make them feel that make them feel really good about their body and really healthy, right? And that's, very, very important, is to have that balance of all the O's that I talked about earlier. Also like Moon square ascendant, right? The Sag ascendant. So you have an actual T square. Wow. So you have a T square with ascendant square Moon, Moon square Sun, and it shoots out in Pisces. So like basically when you have Sun square or Moon square ascendant, it means that the way that you appear, which is the Sag Antares, is very different than your emotional like core self. So, a Virgo moon needs consistency and a certain order in their life to feel secure, organization, all that. Um, but the way that you appear, your ascendant, right? The way that you appear, Sag, it is a lot more. And then being a Gemini, you're going to appear a lot more, most likely, even though you have a lot in Virgo, kind of go with the flow, right? I know it's Antares, so it changes up a little bit. It can be a little bit more how I described earlier. And I know Neptune's in there, which can make people kind of project onto you and see you for how they want to see you, as opposed to. So it's really important for you to not let other people's projections of you become the reality, because that's something that can happen. But yeah, so a T square, the resolution point Pisces, fourth house, is literally saying Pisces, which is high spirituality, compassion, service, um, you know, like Christ consciousness, that kind of level of spirituality, how that is ultimately what can save, can really, really save you, and bring these, kind of resolve the Sag, Virgo, Gemini. But back to the love stuff, right? So it's important to have the kind of partner, Venus in Cancer in the eighth, that's someone who really wants to transform through their relationship. They, they definitely, definitely there's a need to, have a lot of closeness and a lot of security, right? Also, Venus in Cancer, they love their family, love their friends, and they want to form like very strong emotional bonds with their tribe and with their partners. There's that need for that real closeness and security, you know, emotional security, financial security, all that. It's not gold digger in any way. It's just like they want a home, they want family. They love that. They love their family. Um, and yeah, so it's also really, really good for other, for like things like inheritance, or, um, marrying someone with money, not in a gold digger way, of course. Just attracting, external resources easily, even if it's the job, like it's like an investment banker or something like that, where you're managing other people's money. But it can create really intense, intimate relationships. But then also, eighth house is about, esoteric psychology, studies of life after death, all these things, right? And Venus there gives you like this natural ability to understand. It's like a flashlight, and the gates of the unknown are open to you, right? And you're able to conceive of these things, that these ideas that maybe most people would struggle with. So it's a really good placement. But yeah, so with love, going back to that, so you know, the Virgo moon in love, like, I mean, what do they need? Like, because you can make the debate, do they need someone who, do they need someone who is, well, I mean, they definitely want, they need that respect, in the sense that they need someone who's not wasting time, who, especially the Cancer and the Virgo, um, they want to build, right? They want to build something, and they don't want, so it kind of runs a little bit contrast to the Gemini energy, which is more about experience and fun and curiosity. So there's a split here, right? Um, Now Juno, which represents the ideal partner, is in Leo in the ninth house. So that means that, like, on a different level, the ideal partner for you is someone that can open up that inner child, that fun, that part of you that just likes to have fun and be joyous, and kind of like being a kid, which is also linked to your North Node, your destiny. And your part of fortune is on your North Node. Part of fortune is the area of life where you just kill it at, and where you feel really happy. So it's saying that you feel really, really happy when you're, enhancing your truth, you're enhancing your worldview and your truth. And when you're in touch with that fun, go with the flow inner child self, which is, your North Node, right? That's what you're trying to get. You're trying to really, really take a creative leap forward in this lifetime. Also, it's about like developing more inner strength in this lifetime, right? So, and there can be, like, loneliness that comes up, especially with Moon conjunct Saturn, which could have, like, sometimes that can, like, push back, that can cause relationship problems for the first 3 years if there was that loneliness, right? And kind of emotional issues, right? That over time it gets better. After 30 it gets better with anything Saturn. But it can push one into loneliness, but that's all part of the lesson to forge your own creative life, in order to be able to, like, give generously to the world, and to find yourself through your own creativity, which can take, so many different forms, right? I use the word creativity as in, like, a lifestyle, not just, painting, right? Um, so yeah, you can definitely be a very powerful communicator too. Finding your voice is very important, and when you do, if you have, like, it's something that can really, really, like, there's mad leadership potential in this. It's just about claiming those parts of yourself, right? Um, but yeah, like I said, Mars and Virgo, they will work their ass off, and um, it's just showing in your chart that you need to have some fun in this life, and it could come from that past life fear of being ostracized if, you take a route that's different. But the fact that you have, hold up, yeah, you have Jupiter on your North Node too. So that is saying that when you take these risks, right, whether it's traveling different country, whether it's taking this course, whether it's praying to the universe, like, hey, I want to, like, learn, like, please bring me, like, the right teachings or like right opportunities, like you will be helped, right? Having Jupiter in your North Node is like when you're headed in that Leo direction, right? You will receive divine assistance. And it's very, very good placement. So yeah, lots of strong Chiron. So yeah, very gifted healer, because but like the thing with people who have this Mercury square or Neptune square moon is that you have two really, really many more than that, really, really strong healer aspects because you're able to really feel what other people are going through on a deep level. But what I've heard with a lot of people with Moon square Neptune is that it can be too much. Like they can like feel other people's trauma and their pain, and then they can have a lot of trouble separating themselves from it, right? Like they hear like a horrible story and then it just like destroys them and their mood and it drains their energy. So that's like one of the big lessons is like how, learning how to separate from that. So, like I think, yeah, there's like psychology all over this, but that's just, I say that quite a bit because there's just like it's more of a metaphor for like you have like this ability, like your 12th house Uranus, to like probe the human psyche in a very unusual, like kind of genius way. I see lots of leadership potential, and I just see this Virgo, which I run into a lot, and I think you got the follow up, didn't you? Let's check. Yeah, you did. Um, so hey, Felix. So, hey, buddy. Yeah. So the follow up will be able to like have that hour to talk about all this and compare it to your lived experience. Most people, what they do, just so you know, is that they add the current astrology. I would give you a I think it's a $50 or $60 reduction, whatever makes it 300 if you want to add that. And that adds 2 more hours and we talk about all the current astrology. That's what nearly everyone does, right? And so first hour is just going over this. This gets done once in your life, unless you want to have it done by other astrologers, which is always interesting. See how different people take on the chart. And then we talk about, the year ahead, getting you equipped and understanding like what energies are at play, right? Okay. Yeah, I definitely see how like areas of career and areas of groups of friends and organizations could bring like lots of darkness if you're in the wrong ones. And just like I see with that moon square Neptune, how like in just Neptune the first, like how boundaries could be a big issue and saying no could be difficult. And um just everything I said about the Virgo energy is so important. And here's a huge thing about Virgo. The opposite sign of Virgo, which is where the healing is Pisces, right? I said that that's a healing of the T square of your sun, moons, and ascendant. So one of the things with Pisces from Virgo that Virgo needs to take from Pisces is that Virgo worries too much, right? And Pisces doesn't worry enough. But Pisces, the right balance between the two is like taking all the organization, all of like the responsibility and the step-by-step knowledge of, it takes step by step to get to where you want to go, a Virgo and like all that with the oneness of Pisces, right? With the ability to just have blind faith, right? Like I always say, there's like a million different reasons why each day can be ruined, right? Um, like you can always come up with it with multiple reasons why oh, this thing, that thing, whatever can ruin the day. But Pisces is just like it has that faith, and that comes from that deep spiritual relationship. So yeah. Mm, mm, mm. So yeah, I just think with the seventh house like that, like like I, I wouldn't say that like I would never say like this is codependency. I would just say like it's really important with like to yeah, make sure that like really take your time with your partner and make sure, because like I said, with Moon square Neptune, like there's just that potential for taking things on that are not yours. And there's also like a need for alone time, and that's kind of like where you can really find yourself and find your balance. So having your own space could be really good. And as an air sign yourself, that's something that like that needs to be balanced out, because um the love language is very close, but then what's good for you could be something where you feel balanced, right? Obviously, and where you're able to really feel yourself, and with someone who has Moon square Neptune, they can take on the moods of their partners or of anyone they're close to, um, and almost like lose themselves. So that can be uncomfortable. So it's important to have conversations about around boundaries and just different rules. Like I don't sleep in the same room as my girlfriend. Like very independent um, relationship. So you have Ceres in Taurus. So yeah, that's just like really feeling cared for and caring for others by touch and by more practical ways. Um, like the senses and things you're willing to do for people, and then you enjoy, like you feel nurtured when you're touched and the senses are involved, and yeah, practical stuff. Um, and just like good food, good you know, nice things, nice things, luxuries you could say. Let's see here. Okay, let's open. Oh yeah, Palace in Aries in the fifth. So that's just like really good for creativity and having very like original like snap ideas can make one very artistically talented. Um, someone who can like really focus on creative work, and it can bring intelligent children. And Aries Palace is like um being able to come up with like very out of the blue exciting new ideas. And also like like with other aspects in your chart, like be someone who's able to take the risk. It's just that the Virgo energy can have that fear of like what happens if it doesn't work out, right? Pathetic, oh, don't pathetic stuff. So cat just attacked me. Yeah, so I think like the more that you dig into yourself, like Pluto is trying the South Node. That is, like you find this deep from your past life, this deep reserve, this deep reserve of just like, that is there, right? Trying your Mercury. So you're definitely someone who can like if you were ever like you could definitely switch careers or have like two things at once, but I know burnout is a thing. So you just always have to listen to your body. One of the best things for Chiron and Taurus is yoga, um, because it really gets you in touch with, especially with the Virgo moon too, with the somatic and the link between the psycho and the somatic. Okay, so you have water, air, earth. Okay. And yeah, you have all elements. Hi, Esme. Okay, here comes Miss Star. Okay, you're gonna help me on this one? Yeah, Esme. Look and tell me what to look at in the chart. Esme, look. You close your eyes. Esme, what are you doing? Esme, come on, look. Oh my God, the second chart in a row she doesn't want to work. She only did one tonight. Esme, why? Are you tired? Okay, so Esme didn't want to help me, but I already did all the work. Anyways, she comes at the end. Let's see here. Okay, let's talk about that. Talked about that. Yeah, not so many aspects in this chart. I think I definitely answered the question. I mean, it was all I would have answered that. Like, yeah. I almost wish I didn't read the email until after because I would have like said all that stuff. And yeah, you have Sirius on your sun too, so that that just makes you a very, very nurturing, healing person. Where you can really nurture the masculine and the feminine aspects of yourself and of the people around you. Esme, stop scratching my couch. Oh. Yeah. And once again, like another great aspect for being able to empathize with others. Um, so yeah, just very nurturing, being able to, um, and a lot of people with this, like they really benefit from like hikes and being in nature and like kind of escaping the rigors of the material world and like just rejuvenating their spirit through the natural world, right? Like peace and beauty is like very important. Virgo also represents earth magic, right? So at the highest, Virgo is the opposite sign of Pisces, which is cosmic magic, and it's earth magic. So, all right, there. I'm looking for fixed stars and asteroids conjunct important points in your chart. They're all crunched together. Ooh, you have Urania on Mars. So Urania is the astrology asteroid. Not even joking. And you have it right on your Mars. So if you're ever interested in taking classes, I do one-on-one. I have maybe room for one client or one student left. If you're ever interested, it's the best classes ever. And you have the nebula with Saturn. So the nebula is it's also linked kind of with, it's not just with astrology, but um it's with truth seeking. So let me see one thing. One Libra. So it'd definitely be good if you're a smoke. It'd be good for you to not smoke. Um, there's a weakness in the lungs, potential weakness in the lungs causing fluids to accumulate congestion of the lungs occurs that can also affect the heart, resulting in a sluggish heartbeat. It can be painful, but it continues as the individuals are not aware there's a problem at this point. Usually they are the ones who smoke and who cough frequently. The dull, aching pain in the chest that they can feel is more often than not blamed on the heart, but the problem is in the lungs. If the problem is not taken care of, they have a change of attitude towards others. They become impatient and make unusual demands on others. The herb chamomile is excellent for the lungs and should be taken daily. There you go. Okay. And yeah, just like more magic kind of like yeah, real ability to kind of connect to cosmic forces for sure. And did I see, let's do this. Yeah, so lots of like healing power, artistic gifts with Apollo and Jupiter. Mm. Yeah, like mega creativity. If you can go towards that North Node in Leo, like the Venus is out of bounds. So it's just, yeah, you can really just create in a very uninhibited type of way. I mean, it doesn't have any. It's has sextile Jupiter, Venus. So your Venus is really good, really strong. Venus sextile Jupiter is also really good for setting goals and reaching them. So, and it's just good for popularity also, and just overall very nice aspect to have the two benefit plans together. What was I gonna look at? Oh yeah, I already talked about that. Okay, so cool. All right. Well, that is it. Thank you so much. Thank you for the patience. So yeah, let me know about if you want to add the other reading. I can tell you how much that would cost with the reduction. You know what? I think it's like 360, but I would do it for 300 Bedix. That's 350. So yeah, I would be willing to drop that down to 300. Just let me know. Um, and then yeah, it's not like a long wait like this one. It's just done in the next like next few weeks, like whenever my next opening is, which isn't long. So or whenever you've taken in the reading, and do let me know. And let's see. I can see one other thing. Okay. Okay. Well, I think that's everything. Yes, it's not. Yeah. So, I mean, literally, like, my homework to you is to really learn. I even have a post about it. I cannot tell you when I did it, but the learning about like the low and the high vibe of Virgo is really important. Because, it's a very misunderstood sign, but they're just so hard on themselves, and it's so sad. I love Virgo because um they just put so much pressure on themselves to be, what other people aren't. And for some reason they just have, a lot of times they just have this message, God, like deep inside their psyche, that like other people are doing things that they're just not. And it's just like, so how do you see past that? you know and I have people in my life that struggle with it. I think open-mindedness and awareness is step one. And after that, it's just about, you know, mindfulness and that same consistency that Virgo is so good at having, applying it to self-compassion and to really like using that intelligence, right? To monitor yourself and remember feeling the emotions. Like I know so many Virgo people who do therapy, but they're wasting money. Because I'm not saying that's you, by the way. I'm just saying I've seen it, because a therapist can talk, and if you're just talking and you're not feeling anything, I mean, yeah, there can be some benefit, but depends, what you're going for and whatnot. But this, should show you everything. We'll talk. So yeah, I look forward to that. I hope we get to do the longer sessions. We can really dive into everything. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Ciao, ciao. Bye bye.